He looked me in the eye and spoke as if he were begging for salt. "We do not have space for you." I smiled, nodded, and departed without saying anything. What didn't he know? By daybreak, he'd lost the house, because I own half of it. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, comment where you're viewing from, and press the subscribe button to ensure you never miss another tale like this. So it began here. I moved in with nothing except 2 battered bags, a folded blanket from my previous bedroom, and a framed portrait of my late husband, James. I didn't when I handed my son Josh $180,000, the whole amount from James's life insurance. Hesitate. Not once. I informed him, "This is your future. It provides stability for our family." He'd recently married Megan, and they were looking to buy a 4-bedroom home in a Charlotte neighborhood. When their bank denied them a full mortgage, I stepped in. Megan hugged me like a Hallmark ad and said, "Linda, we will never forget this. You will always have a home with us." Josh kissed my cheek and vowed that I would never have to lift a finger again. The house was sleek, antiseptic, and echoey. White walls, gray flooring, and a kitchen that appeared to have never seen a scorched pan. My room was below. Technically, the guest suite. No closet, a twin bed, half a bath. No shower. Still, I did not complain. I was simply pleased to hear folks in the mornings again. Josh made me coffee for the first 2 days. Megan showed me how to use their Wi-Fi thermostat, but she huffed whenever I needed assistance. We ate supper together, once. By the second week, I was hearing things, passive-aggressive behaviors. Megan joked with friends that she lived with 2 children and a grandmother. Josh groaned when I asked if I could put up a shelf in the laundry room. Then came the small modifications. The upstairs fridge received a padlock. Megan said it was because she was food planning. Josh relocated the modem to the upstairs office. My Netflix stopped working for 3 days. One night, I overheard Megan on the phone in the kitchen saying, "She's nice, but we need our own lives. This is not sustainable." I stayed silent. I continued cooking, folding towels, and scrubbing countertops. I gave them room. I grinned when Megan mentioned converting the downstairs den into a nursery. Someday soon. But then I overheard it. I was headed to the kitchen to make tea one morning when I heard Josh's voice from around the corner. "She will not go if we continue to be kind. We have to force her out without a fight." Megan's response was crisper. "She refuses to sign over her share until she feels undesired. Make things unpleasant. She will leave herself." I stood there motionless, gazing at the wallpaper I helped choose 6 days ago. My son, my only kid, was planning to push me out. For a nursery, more room, and convenience. That evening, I cooked Josh's favorite dish, chicken Alfredo. Neither of them approached the table. Megan claimed she had already eaten. Josh muttered something about work and remained upstairs. I sat alone and ate carefully, reflecting on how I'd reared him. Soccer games, missing teeth, emergency room visits, and SAT tutors. I slipped every birthday card he'd ever given me into a shoebox that I still kept in my baggage. And suddenly, I was an impediment, a computation. The next morning, while I was washing strawberries, Megan stepped in, arms folded, face blank. "Linda," she continued, "we believe it is time you looked for something more permanent. Just your personal space, for your comfort, for ours." Josh came a moment later, drinking coffee as if nothing had happened. "We don't have space for you anymore, Mom," he remarked. "You need to go." I just wiped my hands on a dish towel, turned to face them both, and smiled. Not wide, not false. Just be still. "Okay," I replied. "I will be out by tonight." Megan blinked. Josh nodded as if he had just finished a labor task. "Thank you, Mom," he said before turning away. I walked into my room and packed everything I had. My clothing, James's portrait, an unfinished novel, and a red folder containing the house deed that I kept buried at the bottom of my luggage. My name sat next to Josh's, the 49% co-owner. I did not say farewell. I called a taxi and departed without looking back. But I knew something that others didn't. That house was no longer simply a fantasy. It was also a ticking time bomb, and I'd just lighted the fuse. The taxi trip to the extended stay accommodation was peaceful. I sat in the back seat clutching that red folder like it was a newborn baby. My fists squeezed so hard that the corner left an impression on my palm. I booked the accommodation a week in advance, not because I anticipated to need it, but because something inside me screamed, "Be prepared." The hotel was clean yet depressing. Faded carpet, a light that flickered if you touched it incorrectly, and the odor of cooked onions embedded in the wallpaper. I paid cash for 3 nights and turned down cleaning. I didn't want people to notice how little I had. That night, I lay on the uncomfortable bed, the TV on silent, staring at the ceiling and hugging the deed to my chest like a shield. I wasn't angry. I was not even surprised. But I was finished. The next morning, I used the motel printer to print 5 copies of the deed, 1 for myself, 1 for a lawyer if necessary, and 3 in case anyone challenged my power. I was halfway through my second cup of restaurant coffee when I received the call. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something inside me shouted, "Pick up!" The voice said, "Miss Carter, my name is Brad. I'm with Carolina Private Lending. You are registered as a co-owner of the property at 124 Grayson Park Drive." My heartbeat slowed. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "Is there an issue?" Brad cleared his throat. "There has been a default. Your son, Mr. Joshua Carter, took out a $95,000 business loan with a house as security. Payments haven't been paid for months. We have given 3 warnings. He is in breach. Unless the loan is settled, foreclosure proceedings will commence on Friday." I did not respond. I asked inquiries. I obtained information. Josh had borrowed money for a marketing business that failed 3 months later. Megan either didn't know or was acting dumb. Both ideas caused my stomach to twist. Brad was pleasant but strong. I could either stop the foreclosure, pay off the loan, or drop my claim and let the house go. I requested him to email the documents. When it arrived, I printed it, got out the same blue pen I used to sign Josh's first school permission sheet, and carefully scribbled my name across each line. Then I scanned and returned it. Brad phoned back within an hour to confirm receipt. He confirmed that the foreclosure process will proceed. "Thank you, Miss Carter." I said nothing. I hung up, switched off my phone, and sat quietly. Josh was going to discover what it felt like to be abandoned without notice. I did not inform anyone. I did not post anything. I didn't cry, contact my sister, or complain to a church group. I simply sat in that hotel room, listening to the solitude I had been denied for years. Later that afternoon, I strolled 2 blocks to a small grocery store to get peanut butter crackers, instant coffee, and a small bottle of wine. That night, I toasted myself not for retribution or victory, but for finally accepting I would never be regarded as family again. So I may as well begin treating myself like a person who matters. My phone vibrated at 8 a.m. the next morning with a message from Josh. "Have you canceled anything with the house? We just received an unusual letter from a lender." I didn't respond. 3 hours later, another text arrived. "There is a note on the door. Call me." Nonetheless, I said nothing. Megan attempted at 3:17 p.m. "Please, Linda, we are puzzled. Please tell us what's going on." I shut off the phone, not to be nasty, but to be calm. Because if I heard one more phony appeal from the lady who attempted to erase me, I may forget that quiet is often the most lethal weapon of all. The foreclosure notification arrived sooner than planned. Less than 48 hours after I signed the release, the sheriff's office posted a bright orange letter on the front door of 124 Grayson Park Drive. I didn't see it personally, but I didn't need to. Megan shared a frantic message on the neighborhood Facebook group. "Urgent. A scammer is targeting our house. If you are aware of any foreclosure attorneys, please provide their information." The irony caused me to giggle for the first time in days. I sat in my hotel room sipping motel brewed coffee from a paper cup and quietly reading through her public collapse. People flooded. The remarks came from former co-workers, neighbors, and even Josh's college pal Darren. "What happened? Can you help? I thought you were doing so well." Megan reacted to each one like a desperate politician, never actually answering the question and instead twisting it into nebulous misery. She stated, "We are being betrayed by someone we trusted. Someone who should have kept us safe." That's when it transitioned from humor to something darker. Because within hours, I began receiving texts from folks I had not spoken to in years. My cousin Sharon, a church member, and my late husband's sister. They're all asking the same question. Linda, what is happening on Megan portrayed it as if I had betrayed them, that I had wrecked their house out of spite. She made no mention of the money I donated the way they forced me out, or the loan Josh obtained without my knowledge. She simply played the victim. And Josh, he doubled down. He captioned an old photo of him and me enjoying ice cream in a parking lot when he was 5 years old. It's hard when the folks who reared you turn against you. No names or tags, just pure manipulation. But I knew exactly who it was for. The families, the mutuals, the individuals on the periphery of the tale who would fill in the gaps with their own guilt, shame, and assumptions. I was being deleted in real time. I considered defending myself by sharing the deed evidence of loan and texts, but then I recalled what my father said. Do not attack those who are rolling in the mud. You will simply get dirty, but they will appreciate it. So I remained silent till the call came. Officer Reeves from the sheriff's department was pleasant. He said that it was only a courtesy call to Ms. Carter. There will be a formal lockout at the Grayson Park location this Friday at 10 a.m. You do not need to be present because you have already signed off, but we wanted to alert you as a listed party. I thanked him. I didn't ask for more information, but that night I was unable to sleep. I kept visualizing it. Josh stumbled to the door in sweats, Megan weeping on the porch, their belongings in rubbish bags on the yard. I still didn't feel satisfied, only stillness. They had chosen this every step of the way. Friday arrived, and I did not go anyplace. I stayed in my room, cooked porridge in the hotel microwave, and waited. At 10:42 a.m., my phone vibrated. There is no caller ID, only voicemail. I listened once and again. Josh's voice was low and fierce. I'm not sure what you did, but we're out. Gone. You have damaged us, Mom. I hope you are happy. That was it. No apologies, no regrets, only blame. They planted themselves as if I had tripped a wire. Megan provided a more detailed note about midday. Linda, if you wanted to hurt us, congratulations. We are being evicted. I hope you have a good night's sleep tonight. You have wrecked your family. That word, your, stuck to me all day, as if it weren't also theirs. As if I had no right to walk away from individuals who treated me like a tool. I turned off the phone, went to the corner store, and purchased a notepad. On the opening page, I stated that they had lost everything. I discovered my silence. I sat down on the hotel bed, switched to a new page, and continued writing. They did not. Stay silent for a long time. Megan shared a detailed explanation on Instagram 2 days after the lockout ended. 10 slides, pastel backdrop, cursive text overlay captioned, When family betrays you. Each frame conveyed a carefully produced version of the truth. They had opened their house out of love and kindness, taking in a mourning elderly parent, only to be caught off guard by legal deceit and deception. She called it older. Abuse. The remarks were savage. Dozens of strangers piled on. Some adults just wished to dominate their children indefinitely. This is why borders matter. Megan, you're so strong. Sending love. I kept scrolling till I saw Josh's reply. You accomplished everything correctly. You preserved our future. She chose annihilation. I looked at that one for a long time. Not because I was upset, but because I couldn't believe he could lie so casually. He used to cry every time I chastised him for breaking a plate. Now he was portraying me as a monster to strangers on the internet. Nonetheless, I said nothing. I did not answer, but the situation was far from done. The next morning, I was woken up by a knock on the hotel door. I did not move immediately away. I've lived long enough to understand that reluctance may serve as a form of protection. After a second knock, I only opened it an inch. It was a woman in her mid-50s who I somewhat recognized. Linda Carter, she inquired. You probably don't remember me. I'm Doreen. I work for the City Housing Board. I saw a few posts. I simply wanted to hear your viewpoint. I blinked and then nodded. We sat in the motel lobby with tepid coffee and a vending machine nearby, and I guided her through everything. Every cash, every meal, every abuse I took. She did not take notes. She was just listening. "I'm not press," she said. "I'm simply tired of decent individuals being smeared by influencers wearing similar throw pillows." When she went, she handed me her card. "If you require assistance in locating permanent accommodation, please let me know. I have strings that I can pull." It was the first compassion I'd had in weeks. That night, I checked my email. Subject: interview request for Charlotte local magazine. I shut down the laptop without reading the rest. I wasn't ready to convey my tale on their terms just yet, but I did send it to myself with the subject modified. "Hold on to this." Megan doubled down that week. She posted a TikTok video showing herself standing in front of a U-Haul mascara flowing baby belly visible and carrying a cardboard sign that said, "Evicted by my mother-in-law." It had approximately 80,000 views in 2 days. People in the comments mentioned news stations. One woman volunteered to set up a GoFundMe, and then unexpectedly, my former church pastor texted me. "Linda, what's happening on May? I call you?" That was the last straw. I brought up the deed. I looked up my bank statement, which showed my transfer. I opened the email from Brad confirming foreclosure. I took screenshots of Megan's text. "We can now start planning the nursery when she leaves." Then I emailed it all to the pastor, my relatives, and the church women group chat, where Megan had yet to leave. I did not offer any remark, only proof. 5 minutes later, my niece said, "Oh, so she lied to everyone." Then came quiet. Nobody protected her. Nobody uttered a thing. But I knew they had seen it. I knew the thread was broken. Later that night, I received a fresh message. It came from Josh. "Kindly call me. Simply chat to me." 10 minutes later, I realized things had become awful. "But you're still my mother." I didn't respond, not because I disliked him, but because some bridges do not burn all at once. Some shatter piece by piece if someone you care about thinks you're expendable. I gazed at the phone for a long time before locking it and placing it in the drawer. Then I lay down on the hotel bed and muttered into the stillness, "Still your mother, but not your fool." For the first time, I slept for 8 hours without waking up once. It began with a bunch of flowers, white lilies. Josh used to come home from the grocery store as a teenager, attempting to apologize for denting the car or failing a quiz. They were sitting outside the motel door in a cheap glass vase with a message saying, "Let's talk. Please." No name, just that. I did not touch them. I didn't bring them inside. I left them there overnight, and by morning, they'd begun to droop. The front desk staff inquired whether I wanted them, tossed, and I said yes. That afternoon, Josh turned up unexpectedly, knocking on the door at 2 p.m. and said, "Mom, it's me. Can we speak?" I gazed at him through the peephole for several minutes. He looked exhausted and pale, as if he had not slept exactly like me. Against my better judgment, I opened the door slightly. I said 5 minutes. He nodded like a youngster offered a second opportunity. We sat at opposite sides of the little round table near the window, and I watched him attempt to decide which version of himself to be. Finally, he decided on quiet and sorrowful. "I botched up," he admitted. "I am aware of this. I should have notified you about the loan. I should not have allowed Megan speak to you like way. I just panicked." I said nothing, just waited. "She's pregnant," he said, as if that explained everything. We were afraid. I stared at him then, really looked. And for a little moment, I saw the youngster who used to cry whenever I went for night shifts. But he wasn't the same boy anymore. He was the one who had kicked me out of my own investment and portrayed me as the villain online. "I didn't come to quarrel," he explained. I was wondering whether you were willing to sign a paper. Nothing major, just something to help us haggle with the lender and get back on track." That was the moment my stomach shouted. He had not altered. He had not come for peace. He came because he still saw me as a lever he might use when things became desperate. "Show me," I responded. He paused. Then she took out a manila folder and handed me the document. I read it once and again. It wasn't simply a permission document. It was a partial power of attorney veiled in legal jargon that would allow him limited access to oversee the foreclosure procedures, which included bank accounts and my retirement money. I placed the paper down. "Get out," I replied. He blinked. "Mom out." He stood carefully as if he believed he might save the moment. "Add one more line. We're going to lose the baby's future mother." I stared him dead in the eyes. "You already did." He went without saying anything else. I shut the door behind him and remained still until my hands stopped shaking. Then I contacted the motel's front desk and requested to be relocated to a new room. Different flooring, different hallway. They did not inquire why. I packed everything in 15 minutes and swapped rooms just before dinner. I banned Josh's number that night, not because I was upset, but because I needed to shield myself from the part of me that still wanted to believe he was serious when he stated he made a mistake. The next morning, I walked to the housing board office and gave Doreen the card she had given me. Me. She looked up from her desk and smiled as if she had expected me. I told her I wanted to move on. Not only from them, from all of it. She did not remark, "I am proud of you," or "You are doing the right thing." She just slipped a document across the table entitled Senior Housing Coastal Options. On the first page, there was a 2-bedroom condo in Wilmington with a patio and seaside access, and the rent was affordable with my pension. I circled it. This one I mentioned. That evening, I received one final email, this time from Megan. No emojis, no hashtags. I just sent a quick, honest message saying, "I'm not sure what we should do now. We've got nothing. I know you despise me, but think of the baby." I looked at the computer for quite some time, feeling the heat of those words press into my ribcage. Then I shut down the laptop, got myself a cup of tea, and watched the sun set behind the motel parking lot. I didn't respond. Not yet. Because what I had planned next was not a reaction. It was a reckoning. 3 days had passed with no news. Then at 7:42 p.m. on Sunday, there came a knock. I was wearing PJ bottoms and halfway through a cup of peppermint. I peeked through the peephole and saw her. Megan. Her hair was messier than normal, and she was clutching a bundled-up newborn in a soft pink blanket with a diaper bag thrown over her shoulder as a peace gift. I did not open the door. "Linda," she called quietly. "I am not here to fight. We don't know what to do now. Josh is unraveling. We were booted out of the rental we found. They said we failed a credit check. Please, can I come inside?" I cracked the door about 2 inches. Her makeup was smeared and her eyes were red. I noticed the baby was a girl as she moved slightly and let out a small, distressed squeak. Megan rocked her softly. "Her name is Emily," she whispered. "She's yours too. Do not shut us out." That portion impacted me more than intended. I didn't know the baby's name. I had not wanted to. I opened the door to allow her in. She took a hesitant step inside, as if she were a guest unfamiliar with the rules. She looked around the little room with a weary smile. "You still prefer it chilly in here, huh?" I did not react. She sat cautiously on the side of the hotel bed, softly bouncing Emily. "We really botched up," she said. I spoke things that I did not mean. We were stressed and terrified. I nodded, not to forgive her, but to encourage her to continue talking. "Josh is too proud to confess it," she explained. "But he is drowning. We both are. Our bank accounts are frozen. We owe over 10 grand in late fees and penalties. Our phones are on borrowed time, and I'm not sure where we go from here." I observed her the entire time. I watched her lower lip tremble. I saw her blinking too quickly when she mentioned how lonely it was to be in a moving world. Proceed without them. Then I spotted it. The brand tag is still hanging from the diaper bag. I leaned closer and noticed the logo. Posh Baby. I recognized the designer label from a catalog in the hotel lobby. "What is the retail price? More than $900. That is new?" I remarked, pointing. Megan paused. It was a present, she remarked too abruptly, from a pal. I said nothing. I rose up slowly and headed to the window. From there, I could see a rented car idling on the curb, a black SUV. Not inexpensive, not broken down, not desperate. "You came here to acquire something," I explained. She flinched. I came here to beg for assistance. No, I corrected. You came to film something. I turned around quickly. Where is it? She stood up. What exactly are you talking about? Your phone. Your purse. Whatever it is. I noticed it in the bag's side pocket as you sat down. You are recording this. Her lips separated. Then it was closed. We merely wanted confirmation, she explained gently. In case you attempted to manipulate things. I gazed at her for what seemed like a whole minute. Get out, I replied. Linda, now. I opened the door. Take the gift shop baby bag with you. She did not move, so I walked forward. I've never been closer to her in anger. Let's be clear, Megan. I am not your plot. I am not your villain, and I definitely am not your ATM. Leave my room before I call the cops. She softly lifted up Emily, holding her close. She's your grandchild. No, I said. She is your child. Raise her better than you treat others. Megan walked out, her back rigid. She walked to the car and stepped inside. They drove away within seconds. I closed and shut the door, then sat still on the bed for a long time. My hands were trembling again. But it was not dread. It was adrenaline, because I knew what had just occurred. Megan had come to get me to say something unpleasant on video, something they could cut, alter, and share online, turn into sympathetic clicks. And I hadn't handed it to her. I had remained cool, but I wasn't done. The next day, I went to the courtroom and requested a temporary restraining order. I've included everything: texts, attempted manipulation, and a visit. I even printed out a snapshot of the diaper bag's retail price. The cashier scarcely blinks. You're not the first, she explained. You will not be the last. That night, I went back to my room, opened my notepad, and scribbled one phrase. They brought a baby to portray the victim. I brought receipts. I then turned the page and began listing names. People I trusted, people I did not know, people I no longer owed anything to. Because the next time they came for me, I would be prepared. They wouldn't see it coming. The restraining order was issued 2 days later. A thick envelope stamped with a court seal slid under my motel room door like the final puzzle piece. I did not feel triumphant. I felt prepared. The kind of calm you experienced before. A thunderstorm, not out of terror, but because you've already boarded up the windows. I created 5 copies of the order. One for the motel, one for the police department, one for Doreen from the housing board, one for me. And one I shipped unsigned and unaccompanied to Megan and Josh's last known address, along with a single sticky note attached. You wanted legal. You've got it. That night, I finally answered to Charlotte Local Magazine's interview request. I did not beg for money. I did not pitch a narrative. I emailed them everything. The deed copy, the $180,000 wire receipt, Carolina Private Lending's foreclosure confirmation text screenshots, and a photo of Megan's beautiful new baby bag. My email's subject line was simply, "Since they want to talk, let's talk." The editor phoned me the next morning. Her voice was harsh but friendly. "We believe you," she said. "Are you willing to go on record?" I told her yes, as long as they put one of my lines at the top. This is not vengeance. This is clear. The 3-page spread, headed, "When Help Becomes a Weapon," one mother's account of financial betrayal, was published the following Sunday. It did not go viral overnight. It did not cause websites to crash. However, it gained enough traction in the Charlotte community to spread. People began conversing, not gossiping, or discussing the same topics. Megan's Facebook group, where she had grieved over eviction weeks before, was now debating housing ethics, inheritance rights, and adult children's entitlement. My name appeared not as a monster or a victim, but as a person who had been removed and then softly typed back in. But it wasn't the moment I realized the tide had shifted. That happened the next Friday when I strolled into the neighborhood coffee shop and noticed Josh sitting alone at a corner table, sweatshirt on, staring into a cup as if he was looking for his reflection in the foam. He did not notice me at first. I almost continued walking. Then he glanced up. Our gazes met. He did not flinch. He did not wave. He did not even blink. Just looked. And in that expression I saw it. Not regret, not for shame, it's just distance, recognizing a broken link. I continued walking, but I did not weep. That night, he sent me an email. No topic line. It's only a quick message. I've read the article. I will not contact you again. I am sorry you thought you had no option. He made no apologies for his actions. Sorry, I felt compelled to answer. I archived it without responding. The following morning, the hotel manager knocked quietly and handed me a stack of forwarded mail. At the bottom was an envelope with a real estate firm logo and a message from Doreen. You have been authorized. The keys are waiting. I opened the listing's information. 2-bedroom condo on the second level with a view of the ocean. In a quiet Wilmington development for retirees and veterans. Move-in date is next Friday. Rent is barely under budget. I stood there, clutching the paper, and realized I had stopped looking over my shoulder for knocks. I stopped flinching at unknown numbers. I stopped questioning my right to exist without apologies. Later that evening, I amended my will. I removed Josh's name. I divided everything equally among a local domestic violence shelter illiteracy program and the animal sanctuary for which I volunteer. Then I sent one final email to my lawyer with instructions. If he ever opposes this email, then everything in public. I did not wait for a response. I knew he'd handle it. The final text arrived that weekend from a number I didn't know but knew right away. It was Megan. Only 4 words. We've lost everything. Congrats. I read it once and erased it. No response, no response. There's nothing left to say. I spent the evening packing my belongings for the final time. Not because I was running, but because I had finally paused. They began the narrative by claiming there was no room for me. They concluded by demonstrating that I never required their space at all. The unit was smaller than expected, but brighter. Sunlight streamed in across the white walls and landed gently on the laminate floors. I remained at the doorway for a full minute before walking inside, letting the stillness wash over me like a breeze. There is no yelling upstairs. There were no angry footsteps, no phony apologies. It's just space. This is my area. The movers were late, so I brought in the necessities first. My crimson folder, James's framed portrait, and a tiny suitcase of clothing. I left the remainder in the car. I poured a cup of tea using the antique kettle that came with the flat and headed out onto the little balcony. The ocean was not visible, but I could hear it. That was sufficient. That week my phone remained on quiet. I did not check social media. I did not call old pals to explain. I just unloaded one drawer at a time, stocked the fridge with foods I really wanted to eat, and watered the 2 plants I purchased at a roadside market on the way down. On Wednesday, I walked down the boardwalk. Nobody recognized me. Nobody gave a look. I passed a bookshop, a pier, and a seafood shack, where a woman my age painted seashells on a folding table. She grinned and offered me one. Choose the one that appeals to you, she said. I selected a blue one with silver edges. Good choice, she remarked. That one is for folks who have recently let go of something substantial. I thanked her and placed it in my coat pocket. That night, I put it on the kitchen counter near to my keys. I named it Peace. Days passed, followed by a week and 10 days. I got into a groove. Coffee at 8, stroll at 10, and diary at 3. I enrolled in an art class that met every Tuesday and Thursday in the leisure room. My instructor's name was Walter. He was 70, wore suspenders, and delivered the worst jokes I'd ever heard. He also recalled my name on the second day. One time, he approached my canvas and commented, "You paint like someone who has survived something." I grinned. That's because I did. And I intended it. I did not discuss Josh with him or anybody else in class. The past was a closed drawer. I was not interested in revisiting it until the letter arrived. It was penned in Josh's sloppy script and mailed from a P.O. box outside Charlotte. There's no return address. Inside, there were 4 lines. I know I can't undo what I've done. I do not expect anything from you. I simply want you to know I am trying. I named her Emily Linda Carter. I read it twice before folding it and storing it in the same drawer where I stored the now void deed. I did not weep. I did not smile. I simply let the words sit. Later that evening, I went for a walk on the beach. I stood barefoot in the beach for more than an hour listening to the waves. I remembered the girl named after me, the guy who used to be my son, and the youngster who once brought me flowers from a neighbor's yard and sobbed when I told him they were stolen. He was gone. But somewhere out there, perhaps someone better was being born from what he had damaged. And I determined that wasn't my responsibility anymore. I turned and walked home. The lights in the condominium were gentle and golden. I snuggled up on the couch with a blanket and a book. There's no drama, no closing emails, and no family feuds to deal with. Just the gentle sound of someone preferring peace over permission. My phone buzzed again before I turned it off for the night. There is no message, only an unknown number. I let it fade. Then I whispered the 5 words I'd been carrying since the day they shoved me out. There is no room here either. Goodbye. I still don't know where Josh and Megan ended up. Maybe they figured it out. Maybe not. I simply know I am pleased right now, and that is enough. That's all for today. What would you have done if you were in her position? Share your opinions in the comments. I enjoy reading what you all think. And if this tale resonated with you, check out these videos as well. You will not want to miss these.